Trump-Russia collusion, they will have a lot of explaining to do, and that includes the media. They also may want to lawyer up a number of them. Joining us now with reaction, Congressman Jim Jordan, Mark Meadows, Fox News contributor Sarah Carter. Sarah, let's start with your report. Let's stay on the facts here. I spoke to 3 people, 2 congressional members, 1 person in the DOJ. They all confirmed at different levels that 100% the dossier was used at least in part. One person said was significantly a part of getting the FISA warrant. What are you reporting tonight?
I'm reporting the same. I have spoken to a number of sources, one senior law enforcement official and another in the DOJ, and the dossier was absolutely used as part of the FBI's ability to gain a warrant to basically spy on members of the Trump campaign. So this was definitely used as evidence. It was part and partial to other evidence, I believe, that they were trying to collect, but the dossier was definitely used. And what's concerning here, Sean, is the fact that we know, coming from the mouths of members, senior members of the FBI who testified, both Comey and McCabe, that the only part of the dossier that they were able to confirm that was actually factual was that Carter Page had actually traveled to Moscow. Everything else in the dossier, apparently they did not talk about that. They did not confirm. It's unsubstantiated, or they found out to be false. So this is very alarming, and I think that there are a number of sources that are alarmed about this, particularly people within law enforcement who are concerned that they were using this dossier to find a way to look into the Trump campaign.
All right, let me go to Congressman Meadows. You're the chairman of the Freedom Caucus. Jim, of course, the former chairman, so I must go to the chairman, the current chairman first. That's fine. Are you getting the same confirmation that we are getting?
You know, obviously, Sean, talking about what happens in a confidential setting is not something that members of Congress are allowed to do. I will say this. There is a growing body of members who believe that this dossier was a significant factor, as you were mentioning, some saying it's a significant factor in terms of the FISA warrant. But I think that there's a broader question here. Why would the FBI use a Democrat-paid-for dossier to actually surveil another campaign?
But wait a minute, isn't it worse than that? Isn't this fraud upon the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court? I was talking to Greg Jarrett earlier today, and a lawyer, an officer of the court, violating the law by knowingly using deceptive documents to deceive the court. And we got to remember, Fusion GPS never verified the dossier. Ever.
Well, exactly. And so it's not only troubling there, but I think it's time, and Jim Jordan and I are here tonight to call on our leadership to say that what we need to do is let every member have access, not only to that FISA application, but to all the outstanding work that Chairman Nunes has put forth in terms of gathering documents. It's time that every member has the access to those documents, and so we're calling on our leadership to make that available.
And that would mean the Speaker. That would mean Kevin McCarthy, Jim Jordan.
Yes, I mean, Mark's exactly right. If members of Congress get to see this information, we think that the course will grow even more and say, now it's time to declassify this, make this public so the American people can understand once and for all what exactly happened. Remember, Sean, it's today, 1-year anniversary from when BuzzFeed first printed that entire dossier, that disproven, salacious, unverified dossier, as Jim Comey testified and said it was. 1 year ago today that they printed it. A year and a half ago that it looks like they used it to go to the FISA court to get the warrants. Let's make that available for members of Congress to see. If you look at the
contents, what do you see? You know, triple, double, quadruple hearsay, none of which is reliable or even admissible in a court. But if that's if a Hillary Clinton bought and paid for Russian propaganda dossier is used to obtain a FISA warrant, what happens then?
There's 3 fundamental questions. Did the FBI pay Christopher Steele, the author of the dossier? Did they use that work product
one question at a
as the
time.
basis?
Sarah, I'm hearing from sources that either Comey or McCabe paid. Do you hear the same?
I'm hearing both stories, Sean, and that's why we have to verify this. We're hearing there's a possibility that they did pay. I'm hearing from other sources that they did not pay. And we need to clarify that. And that's a very important question, and the Congress should be asking this.
All right, Jim, go ahead. Back to you. What's point number 2?
Sarah's right. That's why we want the documents. That's why we want the documents made available to members of Congress. We all have the same clearance. We're all entitled to see this. Make it available. Give us the information. Devin Nunes, as Chairman Meadows has said, has done great work in getting these documents now coming to Intel. Make these available for all members of Congress to see, and then I think you'll see more members say, you know what? We need to make this available for the American people so that they can see what actually took place here. And if all our suspicions and all the evidence points to one thing, did that actually happen? That's sure what it looks like, but let's find out for certain.
All right, Sarah, let's go back. Fusion GPS never verified the dossier. Remember, they tried to withhold who paid for the dossier and banking records associated with the dossier. They've not exactly been truthful, honest, and helpful, and
No,
this is what they deal in.
No, they haven't. And actually, it wasn't until October when the Washington Post first revealed that the DNC and the Hillary Clinton campaign had paid millions of dollars to Fusion GPS to basically go after this Trump-Russia collusion narrative. And that's when they hired Christopher Steele. And that's when Christopher Steele went back to some of his old cohorts, people that he had made contact with when he was a former spy in the FSB. And this is why these concerns have been raised. I mean, the Russians could have very easily, and according to my sources in the intelligence community, known right away that it was being paid for by the DNC and the Clinton campaign. They could have used it for their own propaganda purposes, and it appears that they have. And now what we're seeing is, what was the amount of the systemic abuse? Was there systemic abuse with the FISA warrants? Is it just related to the Hillary Clinton campaign, or does this go beyond?
And it would render anything they've got inadmissible. The media's been trying to sell this New York Times report. Greg Jarrett made a good point to me earlier today that in fact that it was the New York Times reporting that Papadopoulos mouthed off to some Australian diplomat that he had heard that the Russians had dirt on Hillary. That's not even admissible. That's like triple hearsay.
Well, Sean, that's exactly why we need to go ahead and be transparent with this. Senator Feinstein started this yesterday when she released this whole Fusion GPS testimony. I say let's go ahead and release it all to all the members. If there's nothing that is of national security interest, then let's release it to the American people and let them be the judge. There is no collusion. There's nothing to hide, so let's get it out there.
Jim?
No, you're right, Sean. And this story in the New York Times a week and a half ago, this was laughable. 4 unnamed sources said,
wait a minute, let me just, I don't mean to interrupt. A guy in Russia tells a guy in London who tells Papadopoulos, who tells an Australian diplomat, who tells the FBI.
Yeah, a 28-year-old shooting his mouth off in a bar. Now that's the reason they launched the Russian. It wasn't the dossier that we've been talking about for the last year. Come on, this is like pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. That is just a laughable story. We know what caused this. It's the stuff we've been talking about.
I am hearing, and I'm just getting rumblings of this, that some of the details are beyond our imagination in terms of FISA abuse. Sarah Carter. Well, I see Mark Meadows is shaking his head. Are you agreeing, Mark?
I am. I'm agreeing. You know, some of the things that will be coming out are so unbelievable that the FBI and DOJ would actually allow it to happen. And I would also say there are other agencies within the federal government. So we're over the target.
We've been right all along.
You're over the target, and let me just tell you, we're focusing in, homing in on that target, and it's time now.
We need to know the truth. Sarah, last word for you tonight.
Yes, the American people deserve the truth. They need to know the truth. They need to be able to find resolution to this so that the administration and our nation can move forward and that they're not stuck in this for another year.
And the media has been wrong the entire time. Jim, you're smiling. Your last comment we'll give to you. Go ahead. We want to be fair.
Sarah was great. Look, we'll let members see it. Let members see it.
I agree.
And then let's
let the public see it.
Exactly.
I agree.
All right, thank you all. This is scary, actually, in a lot of ways. We will follow this every step of the way. When we come back, major federal immigration raids were conducted